And of course, also, that is what is splashed on the front page of the Daily Nation today. If you just take a look at the Daily Nation, it's all about also Miguna Miguna as well. Miguna Boinnet on notice, police chief and his criminal investigations director faulted for keeping opposition politicians and lawyer in custody despite orders to release him, directed to produce him in court today. Also, if you look at the Star, a probing question as well on the front page of the Star. If I may just load it up for you quickly. There you go. Miguna, location still unknown as IG is summoned. Ultimatum. Judge orders Boinnet to produce NRM General by 9 a.m. Raila Nasa MPs attend court in Milimani, but police failed to produce the combative politician for the second time despite court orders. That story is tucked away on page 4 and 5 of the Star this morning. Also, police break up demo over week-long TV closure. We are back and we're glad. And I want to introduce our panel this morning to also take us through what they think on the headlines this morning as well. And of course, also that story by Ken Mijunga should say act as a segue to our discussion as well. I want to introduce to you this morning, we have with us Dr. Otende Amolo, who is a member of parliament from Marieda. Also, we do have with us Haman Manyora, who is a lecturer at the University of Nairobi, a political analyst here on AM Live. We have Senator Aaron Cheruiyot, who is a senator from Kericho. We have Jacob Midio with us as well, former member of parliament from Game. And also do have with us Kimani Mwatangi, who is a senator from Kiambu. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning to you.
Right, let's just begin with Aaron Cheruiyot, looking at the headlines and of course looking at that story. You've also had what we're saying. What would be a comment? Where is Miguna Miguna?
Well, very interesting that you chose to start with me, Debarl. But either way, where is Miguna Miguna? The answer is, I don't know, just like you. I've been reading on the news and getting information. There has been scanty coming that there are various things that are happening. We all watched that circus over the weekend where he was being moved from one police station to the other. Also, it was alleged by his lawyer, Sifuna. And since then, I haven't had an opportunity. Yesterday, there was information that he had been handed over to ATPU, which is an anti-terrorism police unit. And the police explained that because he's a self-declared general of the NRM, which is now a proscribed group in the country, listed alongside the likes of Al-Shabaab and MRC. They find him as a person of interest and they feel he has information that will be useful. Well, we all have to wait and see if he's produced in court this morning, the kind of charges that will be leveled against him. The common thinking amongst all of us and many of the panelists, I want to guess this morning, is that he's being charged for the political activities that he's been involved in. But who knows? Maybe when they bring him eventually to court, there are things that they will reveal to us which are unknown right now. That is the farthest that I'd wish to comment on this matter.
All right, let's hear from Dr. Otende Amolo, looking at what also happened on that particular day where the police had to bomb their way through his house as well. You know, we're wondering, was he a terrorist? Because this is actually the likely manner that we normally see in the movies with the FBI when they're trying to actually look up for terrorists as well. Maybe he's saying that that's because he's declared himself a general, so he's a person of interest as well. Do you hold with this view?
Debarl, I think this is a new law for us as a country. The events of this week perhaps have not been witnessed in over 20 years in this country. And I think they are quite sad. Senator Cheruiyot calls them a circus, stops short of talking about their illegality. But where is Miguna? Maybe you should ask Senator Matangi. I saw him in this show last week before you were shut down. He was assuring Miguna that he would not be arrested. But he was arrested the very next day. So maybe he should tell us. And it's telling that the stations where he was shuffled are on Senator Matangi's, county. So that's a question that perhaps they should ask. They should answer. But I think what is important, first of all, and I was in court, is that Miguna was arrested unlawfully. I read the application that was made by a man whose name resembles Senator here, Chief Inspector Cheruiyot, claiming that Miguna was keeping arms in his house and that they needed to access it to get those arms. What usually that means are two things. One is that when then you go, you seek to be admitted. You don't bomb your way into a house. Secondly, when you access it, then you look for those arms. And if you don't find them, then you don't arrest, because that's why you went there in the first place. There were no arms, none that we've been told about. They bombed their way into the house and then arrested Miguna. Then proceeded, instead of doing what the police normally do, you are taken to a police station, you are allowed to access your lawyers and relatives, they tell you what they're investigating. They moved him from place to place, taking him to areas which they know is hostile to a man like Miguna. But what's more fundamental is that the court ordered his release on Friday, he was not released. The court ordered his release yesterday morning, he was not released. Then we went back again at 2 p.m., he was not brought to court and not released. The explanation that Senator Cheruiyot echoes here is irrelevant. The constitution is clear. There is nothing like holding you, now it's ATPU, now it's this. It does not matter. The maximum you can be held is 24 hours. And once the court has ordered that you be released, you must be released without further let or hindrance. What is more fundamental, it emerged in court yesterday, and we'll revisit this morning, that even the police have no regard for the Directorate of Public Prosecutions. They came to court and said they had served the court order. The person sitting in the office of the IG disregarded that court order. In fact, said they will not accept it. They did not give any information. So the DPP's office basically washed their hands off. When the DPP, who is in charge of all prosecutions, say, as they said in court, they have not preferred any charges, who are you to say you are holding Miguna for some sort of charges? Most fundamentally, we are now in a situation where we do not know whether Miguna is alive or dead. And that's the bottom line. And we do not know in what state. There's a reason why the Constitution insists that your lawyers must access you, your relative must access you, you must be allowed medical treatment, all of which were denied him. So no matter what happens today, it is our prayer that they bring Miguna in good health in court. It still remains that the IG, the AG, the DCI are in complete contempt of court, in contempt of the Constitution, and they're operating outside of the law. We are now in a state where only the police and those who control them decide what to do, not the law, not the Constitution. Yes.
Let's say from Herman Manyora. Good morning.
Morning to you. I'm feeling very awkward sitting where Miguna normally sits. I think I normally sit there. And he said, no, nobody can touch Manyora. I'm a good citizen. I love this country. And everything I say comes out of my love, so nobody can touch me. I'm not saying Miguna said anything bad. You see, Debarl, my reading of the situation is that government seems convinced that they can use some tactics to achieve what they want. You know, when you go out to fight some parts of the population or some citizens, the thinking is that you can subdue them. Quite often you don't subdue them. You know, if you look at resistance and things that have happened in other countries, you don't need a lot of history to know that you can succeed to subdue people. But you can also think you have succeeded when they just out of fear keep quiet. So it's a problem waiting to erupt. So when you scare people the way the government seems to think they can do today, people can keep quiet because they don't want to go through what Miguna has gone through. But they are inside, there's something going on. So that can erupt. Equally, history tells us, if you set yourself on a path of trying to terrorize people in a country or fight them or do all manner of things so that you subdue them, you can push them underground, you know? If you look at the history of organized crime, it started when people made it difficult for people to access even just alcohol alone. And that's how organized crime started, underground. So when you push people to do things underground, you are not quite succeeding. The other possibility, when you do what I'm seeing my government doing is, you can actually force people into physical confrontation. They can call you a bluff. All these options, none of them is attractive for the country. The best option for me is for government to pursue policies that allow each one of us to live in this country peacefully. There is enough economic space for all of us in this country. There is enough physical space for all of us in this country. There is enough cultural space for us to be Luos, to be Kikuyu, to be Luya, to be Kalenjin, to be anything. There's enough space for us in this country. There is enough political space for us in this country. That to me will be the best path for the government. But the path I'm seeing government trying to pursue today, I want to advise them. It rarely succeeds. The best way is, if there is a problem in the country, just face it head on. I said, this is our problem. We went into an election. It seems there are issues that have come out of this election. Let's sit down and sort out those issues. That is the best option. All these other options. And that's why I've been asking myself, isn't it time the president looked for certain seasoned, experienced, career officers who have worked in the security sector and put them closer to him in his administration? You know, I wouldn't even mind if you took somebody like General Karangi and gave him the defense docket, the security docket, so that we have the combative Matiangi in transport to deal with these rogue Matatu people. You know, somebody like General Karangi, he will advise the president, some of these things we are doing may not ultimately work, which I'm calling soft war. You can fight a soft war. But this hard-on tackling, the country is at a time we should avoid.
Thank you. Asked me. Thank you. Let's hear from Jacomedio. Good morning.
Good morning, Debarl. First of all, let me say sorry for NTV and the other media houses. Let me also say I feel bad for the family of Miguna Miguna, because I don't think it is warranted. I think that can be avoided. But let me say this. First, you steal elections. After stealing them, you want to use your false victory to rule by force. Then you expect half of the country, over 60% of the country, to be cowed down because you have the guns. In my rudimentary thinking, it will not work. It will not work. First of all, I knew the Jubilee government was doomed on the 26th of October when Raila withdrew. Then I knew these people don't think. Then I knew they have a problem. Because what would have stopped Uhuru and his people from paying the leaders of the world from not running so that he could be declared president? He is in this embarrassing situation because he has no proper advisors. And I can tell you, it would have been so easy. This country would be so much different if the leaders of the world that they had paid to run, they would have paid them not to run, and the president would have been declared unopposed because the main opponent had...
But how sure are you they were paid to run? Do you have any scrap of proof?
Actually, I mean, do you really need to be told anything further than that, Debarl?
Yeah.
I mean,
we just need evidentiary documents that yes, there was any transaction which was done.
I am very sure that there are many people who went to the ballot on the 8th and on the 26th who were candidates of the state. That's how it works. Now, the president, suppose they were not paid. Why didn't he just tell them, what are the chances that Deda would have been the president of Kenya? Or Ekuru Haukot? No chance. So tell them, please just step down, let me be declared unopposed. I knew that day, I saw that Jubilee has no idea what it is doing. Now let's come back to the issue of the day. You know, when the police in broad daylight goes to Miguna Miguna's house and basically break his house by force, and he is home alone. I mean, how much force do you need to subdue Miguna? Suppose he was even fighting. How much force do you need to be so unlawful as to shut down all TV stations. And if that is not foolish, then I don't know what else can be foolish in our country. And I can tell you, it is never going to work. What this state must do, and we said here, I have said it once, Professor Manyora has said it many times, Uhuru, pick up your phone and call Raila Odinga and sit and give us the way forward in our country. Mm-hmm. This is not Uhuru's country, it's not Raila's country. Give this country a way forward. You cannot expect us to be so unlawful, and if the police are so unlawful, why do you expect us to obey the law? If the police can do what they're doing, what do you expect from a tout on the streets? It is not right. And we cannot waste this airtime without looking at them in the eye and telling them the truth.
All right, thank you. Let's hear from Omotangi. Well, we have here Otenda Molo saying, yeah, in the last People and Politics program we had, you promised, yeah, Miguna Miguna. He is not likely to be arrested because, so to speak, he's a persona non grata, right? But he's arrested today. We don't know about his whereabouts. This is the splashes that we have on the dailies this morning.
Yeah, Debarl, as usual, I pass my regards and say good morning to our viewers and acknowledge that we are lucky to be alive and saying the things that we are saying, courtesy of the grace of God. So I say good morning to everybody. And Debarl, let me start by very quickly just making a comment on the last comment that was made by my neighbor here, Jacoya Mediwo. You know, on this part where he says that the candidates were paid, just on a quick one and a light one, because you know I think that's very offensive to to every person, and especially our young people right now. That you would say or insinuate that either because of where somebody comes from, what stature they occupy in the perception of others in society, whether you deem me to be either from a minority or from a poor background or from any community, that it is not likely, that indeed it is laughable that I should offer my candidature to be a president in this country. And to me, I also find it personally, to myself, very offensive to say that because I'm a son of a small peasant family who have tried to work his way up, brought up by a single mother, then that I don't have a right to dream and to imagine that I can be a president. And if I did, I would be told that I was paid to run. Remember, Okot was one of the petitioners of the outcome of that election because he thought he had good chances of winning. Remember, Dida had run twice. This was his second attempt to run. And every other person, including Nyaga, all those Kenyans who offered their candidature, I want to tell them, and any other young person, any child under the sky this morning in our country who has aspirations, who sees the presidency and the president and dreams that they can be the president, that they have, their dreams are valid and they can dream on. You see, because
let him finish.
I mean, Haman, you spoke your name, so your time will
just
come.
Let him finish, please.
Keep your notes.
No. Let him have his head, please.
My comments are very simple. Debarl, I was saying that presuming that any of those candidates was paid to run is completely wrong. It is demoralizing for anyone with such dreams, and I rest my case.
Can I withdraw and apologize?
Secondly,
all right, thank you.
So that we can make progress.
Secondly, let me also now come to what my good friend and welcome my brother Daktari Tiende Amolo. You've been missing in action. Karibu. Now I hear you, and you say the last time you saw Miguna was when he was with me here, and yes, he was with all of us, and rightfully said, Debarl, in fact, that morning, I was telling him that arresting him would add no value in my perception at that particular time. And that's the last time I saw him. Remember, we walked out together and said a few things. It was still my thinking that as of then, his arrest was, in my view, inconsequential. But then after that, I also saw him again in the media, acknowledging that he was the one who had signed the oath and the one who administered it during the so-called swearing in, and making quite a few statements, and finalizing his statements by daring the police also to come and arrest him. That's the last time I actually saw him. I want to be factual, like I've always been, and because that's my hallmark. I like being truthful. Debarl, I'm only a senator. The mandate of a senator and my work crosses nowhere in line with what either the DCI does, or the Commissioner of Police, or the Inspector General of Police. And so, for me to pretend and to make comments here that would be construed to mean that I know where Miguna is, or what he's doing, or the reasons, would be lying. So I'm just like every other Kenyan.
All right.
Who doesn't know where Miguna is, and when he appears, I'm sure, then he'll tell us what he has been.
All right, we have a very interesting editorial cartoon here from Victor as well. If you may just pick it up, and our panelists can comment on this. We have the Constitution here, which is being buried, born 2010 and died in 2018, according to Victor. The last rites, and we can see the people who are personified here. We have that gap of the IG. We have also, I think, the Minister of Interior. And of course, the presiding priest is none other than President Uhuru Kenyatta, personified here by Victor as well. Maybe we can begin with you, Dr. Atenda Amolo. Is the Constitution, of course, being buried? Is it dead?
It's a very telling cartoon. And as I indicated, I think that reflects the events of this week. And as one of those who wrote the Constitution, I can tell you 100 ways in which the government, and when we say the government, it includes all the arms of government, have buried the Constitution. I think the only thing we don't see there is we see three people. But you can see the strings are being held on this other side. I can guess who else is holding the strings on this other side. I am quite sure that the Deputy President is also on this side. I'm quite sure the Attorney General of the Republic would also be on this side. Because all these things, the Constitution would not suffer so much fate when the Attorney General is completely quiet, unless he's assisting in its burial. And I think that picture speaks volumes.
All right, let's hear from Hamad Manyora.
You see, the constitution of almost any country is a negotiated, sometimes a fought document. Sometimes it is a product of war and blood. And that means, therefore, not all players will embrace it after it has been brought to work. It's obvious. And that's why they say vigilance is what sustains democracy. So I would not be surprised that some parts of the country or of our establishment would find it convenient to ignore some aspects of this. Is normal. Even in America, they fought, and those amendments are a product of the same. Recently, when Obama was there, they were fighting about the meaning of the second interpretation of the second amendment about arms. It was even taken to the Supreme Court. So these are very normal things. This is the dynamics of constitutionalism. Except that...
What dynamics?
These are the dynamics, that what is going on. That some people, these are dialectics in politics.
No, are you saying the dynamics that, of course, we're observing the inviolable, inviolate, of course, sanctity of a constitution?
What I'm saying is, not everybody sings Hosanna, Hosanna when we get a new constitution. And that when you are in power, anywhere in the world, you seek to have it as easy as you can. And if by violating some aspects or ignoring some aspects of the Constitution, you can then have it easy, that's what people do. But I'm saying, just to look at that thing, it is, of course, an exaggeration, and you use an exaggeration to make a point. Nobody's burying our Constitution. A few things are happening here and there, but you need an exaggeration such as that to make a point. However, finally, we cannot celebrate when people are attempting to mutilate our constitution.
Thank you. Let's hear from Aaron Cheriot.
I agree with Victor and in this cartoon. The only thing that he got wrong are the faces that he has there. In the place of the priest, that priest should be Raila Odinga. That police officer should be NRM generals. The person holding the string should be maybe Atiende Amolo, who's a legal brain who has been guiding
And suppose all of them were here.
You know?
Yeah, on the other side, maybe it is what we have, and then on the other side are the people you've mentioned.
No. At least as Jubilee, we've upheld the constitution at least up to 95 or 96%, which is a good try. But for NRM, let me just make my point, and it's a very salient point that I want you to hear. Which other country, where you go for an election, you lose, then you go ahead and say that I don't agree with the verdict from all the constitutionally mandated bodies that are supposed to give us the results of who has been elected and who hasn't been elected, and you say, using my own results, I want to declare myself president and I want to cause as much anarchy. I would wish to hear from Jakoyo and my good friend Haman and the other and Dr. Otiende, how they feel when they look at the country on Tuesday the 30th of January, when virtually the entire city was almost like a no-go zone place, because their activities are well known. Every time they have an activity at Uhuru Park, people choose to stay away, not because of anything else, but because they are known to be barriers of the constitution, like what you're saying. They'll do anything that is under the sun to prevent the life of others. So if the constitution is being barred, it is being barred by NRM and NASA.
All right.
Well, Debarl, who stayed away? The crowd at Uhuru Park was 2 million people. Nobody stayed away. Everybody went to Uhuru Park.
2 million.
That is a
gospel. No.
Nairobi has 4 million Jakoyo. So if you say 2 million, you're saying half of Nairobi was at Uhuru Park, which is.
Well, I think all Nairobi was at Uhuru Park. Then the next day, everybody else was in Kiambu in Mama Tangi's home state. But people in Nairobi were at Uhuru Park.
But at 2 million is a hyperbolic figure that you're giving, isn't it?
I didn't know you to be an accountant. I didn't know you to be an accountant. I am an accountant. So you must just take what I'm saying to be the gospel truth. Secondly, what my good senator is saying, who was the leader of the no campaign against the Constitution? One Samoei William Ruto. He will never accept it. And I can tell you, we are 90% here because of him. Because they do not want to obey the law.
That's a lie.
They do not want to obey the Constitution. And let me tell you, Article, I think 35, Utiende, you will correct me, that allows the freedom of the media. It is in this book.
36.
Article 36.
Huh? No, it's 34.
34. You know, that's why I'm consulting my good lawyer, Tinde Amolo. That allows freedom of the media, allows us to enjoy information. But look at what they have done the last few days. You know what is also interesting, which must also be said when we get a chance, Debarl? Whose TV station was left running? You know, these are commercial TV stations. Somebody was making money when NTV, Citizen, and KTN were shut down. Somebody was using the power of the state, wrong powers of the state. This is something that we can never shy away from. We must be brave about it. You can arrest all the Migunas you want. In fact, you can even come for us. But for me, I'd rather go down. My grave, the way they are burying the Constitution, but talking the truth. That must happen in this country. And you know, just 1 second.
Yes.
That cartoon is not lying. It is so straightforward. It's showing that they are burying our Constitution. We must resist, and we shall resist.
All right. Let's hear from Matangi. That cartoon?
Yes, Debarl, I would agree.
It's 7 o'clock. We need to take a short break.
Quite largely with what Senator Cheriot was. The only part I would want to discount is where indeed the Constitution is being buried. I would have said it is more realistic if they had come on a first anniversary to commemorate the time when the Constitution was buried. Because indeed the Constitution has been buried. It was buried a long time ago by remember, when our colleagues here from the NASA side mutilated that Constitution, threw it out of the window, knowing it provides for example, how IEBC commissioners are supposed to be removed and enjoy the tenure of office. They went to remove them from office unlawfully. And since that time, if you want to ask the question of do we still respect that Constitution, it was buried a long time by these guys. And I'll tell you one thing, and agreeing with Chariot, if it was the phases of Otiende Amolo, I didn't see him during the swearing in, but maybe he was in the background. but his face then should have been there. Jacoyo, you know, although he was busy with the petition, he may not have been there, you know. But these are the phases that should have been commemorating the time when they buried the Constitution. They did it, right. Indeed. And what we have been doing in Jubilee is indeed resurrecting the best of it that we can. Where else on earth, and as you know, Jacoyo asks, where else on earth do you have a president for so many years elected constitutionally and declared a winner? After that, they move. A court rules that election is invalid, and that president in the whole of Africa, it's never happened, says I agree and goes back to an election.
Thank you.
I mean that is lawfulness.
Don't you think?